Previously on the Retronomicon.
Thank fuck for that. It was all just some shitty dream.
Blowing things up again, are we, douche? Haven't done that in a while.
What's going on?
No, sleep now, douche. I've got something here we won't be needing anymore.
Oh. Sorry, I thought the episode was over. Oh, alright, Jesus Christ.
Sorry, douche. Dude, I've got to give you this one as well.
Well, I don't really know what you mean, sir.
No, I'm telling you, I didn't order these.
I'm looking at your account, and the purchase was made, not refundable, to your bank card. Yours is the one, and
Yes, but...
then I'm afraid there's nothing more I can do unless they're defective, sir.
Oh, well, in that case, they are defective. Yeah.
They work fine, sir.
Oh, yeah? And how do you know that?
Because I'm the one that gave them to you.
Very funny. Very fucking funny. No. This is the number for customer services. This is the number for...
Your call has been forwarded to...
Fuck! This isn't happening!
Oh, it's happening, douche.
Like hell it is. No, I'm stronger than you now. Look, see? Piece of shit. Okay, come on. Why didn't I think of this before? No. You're just in my head. You want to play these games. These games are a gift. You want to play them just as much as I. No, I really don't. You want to play these games. I want to play these games. You like The Simpsons, right? Everybody likes The Simpsons. I love The Simpsons. They are a pillar of comedy, and the animated sitcom is not an over-diluted genre by any means. Yeah, we get it. Just take them, play them, review them. No!
This game fucking sucks.
When people think of Simpsons games, I'm doubtful that this is one that immediately comes to mind, unless you played it as a kid and remember it as one of those notoriously bad PS1 entries. People are more likely to think of games like The Simpsons Road Rage or The Simpsons Hit and Run, which were, frankly, lukewarm clones of Crazy Taxi and GTA, respectively, that came out on PS2. These games were fun and popular. In retrospect, they weren't the greatest games, yet signified to most, including myself, the golden era of Simpsons games. There hasn't really been that many since, besides The Simpsons Game, it's just called The Simpsons Game, which came out on a whole bunch of consoles back in 2007. I never played this one, but looks to be another game adaptation of the famous cartoon family that sits barely above average in reception and remains a somewhat failed attempt at rebooting The Simpsons as a video game franchise. Yet the worst game to feature The Simpsons, this is not, as only a few years before this rectal renaissance, video games based on The Simpsons were heinous butt burps floating around as clones of other popular game franchises. The Simpsons Wrestling very much falls into that category, a truly paint-peeling guff of anal stench that came out way too late into the PS1's life cycle. Although, as you'll find out as this review continues, it's not a wrestling game. It presents it as such, but it really isn't. Things look promising when you first start the game. I like this clean and sleek menu screen. When it comes to menu screens, less is certainly more, and the background music, while in no way Simpsons themed, gets me all nostalgic from playing this game around a friend's house when I was a kid. I was actually quite giddy to play this one. I told myself, it can't be as bad as critical reception says it is. Things take a sour turn when we select our game mode, and you're thrown into a particularly ugly character select screen. These character images look like they've come straight out of a kid's colouring book. But this is just a menu, not the game, so we give the benefit of the doubt here. I like the loading screens. They can be a bit on the long side, but I like the itchy and scratchy animation. Much more appealing than some of the shitty loading screens we've seen on the channel before. We're then thrown into a match with absolutely no context or story. If you want plot, you better read the fucking manual. We're in a ring and Seymour Skinner announces the match. The characters give their quips as the battle is about to begin. Voice acting is fine, but these graphics are a bit rough. They're nice, bright and cartoony though, so it feels like they're hitting the right tone visually, although the cardboard cut-out characters and the somewhat detailed backgrounds leave something to be desired.
Like a better fucking game.
The bell rings and gameplay begins. We're not given any tutorial as to what the controls are, but considering how this game works, I'm glad we didn't. What little strategy there would be is replaced by primarily bashing square, which acts as a punch-kick style combo. You have an energy bar along the bottom with button symbols going along it, indicating how much energy the respective button presses use. Each character on the roster has a distinct set of moves, which is honestly the most endearing part of the game. Most characters, for example, have a projectile of some kind that can be used to different effects. Barney has a slow but long-range beer throw. Homer has a bowling ball that bounces around the ring and can deal damage multiple times, although in my experience it was pretty much fucking useless, whereas Marge can deploy Maggie as a grounded homing projectile that latches onto the opponent to slow them down. I will say, playing different characters and experimenting, playing around with their different moves, was honestly the best part of this game. Before long though, you realise how unbalanced and frustrating the game is to actually play. This is by no means aided by the sound design, which is also pretty aggravating. The music is fine. The sound effects are fine, and the aforementioned voice tracks are more than adequate, but it just gets incredibly stale and repetitive. Vocal lines, while featuring the original voice cast from the show, are repeated continuously, along with grunts and yells and catchphrases almost every single time you or the opponent attack or get hit, turning the soundtrack of an average match into a cacophony of cartoony crap that crushes your cranium. The controls are quite dumb, but no dumber than the game's piss-in strategy. If you wanted to play this game optimally, you would benefit much more from staying away from your opponent and camping projectiles. Worse yet, this strategy appears to be encouraged by the developers. In the later levels, the AI just runs around in circles avoiding you, throwing projectiles, camping you out. Spawning in the ring around you at random points are pickups that include small and large health items, speed and energy boosts, and the dreaded taunt letters. You can acquire the letters naturally by completing square hit combos, which, as the game progresses, becomes increasingly hard to achieve as the AI opponent can just interrupt this process with a singular mashing of the square button. Regardless, once you have all the letters there by your energy bar, you get to taunt the opponent, which not only stuns them, but gives you invulnerability for a short period of time. Camping out around the ring and running in circles waiting for letters to appear is a solid, albeit incredibly fucking stupid, method of getting a game-winning advantage over the easier opponents. But as you get further into the league and the AI gets smarter, they will just start to jump around and avoid you the moment you get said invulnerability, making this, much like the game overall, a complete waste of fucking time. Some of these harder opponents are incredibly unfair and frustrating, in particular Burns and Smithers, who essentially work together to completely ruin your gaming experience. As if that wasn't already flushed down the shitter. Seriously, this sucked absolute balls. After getting incredibly stuck trying to beat Smithers, I looked up strategies online, if only just because I desperately wanted to show off more of the game without having to suffer through any more of this. So I found out that you can perform attacks from bouncing off the ropes. If you hit X, you do a pissy little charge, but if you use the circle button, you do this riskier heavy charge, and it does a ridiculous amount of damage. And while it knocks both of you down, you will always be able to get up quicker, giving you a second or two advantage in the process. I was able to beat Smithers and every opponent thereafter by just spamming this move over and over and over again. By the end of the first cup, you've unlocked a couple of new characters, and then you have to wrestle the fucking aliens as the first league's final boss, I suppose. This is fucking ridiculous, but I kind of love it. It's like the game embraces its own stupidity. After inserting yourself into this giant green bastard, you get a win screen, immediately followed by the credits. That's it. No, I mean it, that's it. I'm not playing any of the other fucking leagues. Fuck this game. So that's The Simpsons Wrestling for the PS1. In short, a pretty horrendous time. It's all just button mashing and unfair AI and basically no substance. It's a time waster, but in the worst sense possible. Graphics weren't bad though, especially for the PS1.
What the fuck you talking about, douche? That game looked like absolute shit.
Shut it! Anyway, we've got another Simpsons game to look at today. It's our favourite animated family doing something I used to love as a teenager. Cowabunga, motherfucker!
The Simpsons skateboarding for PS2, a generation up, so I'm expecting a better game.
My fucking ass.
Even this box art is enough to make me question all the events that led to this heinous moment. God, it looks like he's having a bit of a moment. You alright, mate? I think my guy is tripping, but I also think you'd have to be to get any sense of enjoyment out of this. What struck me the most when I first looked at this was, well, how absolutely abysmal it looked. I didn't go into any analysis of the previous game's case because it was honestly well laid out and I had no qualms with it. Yet upon closer inspection of The Simpsons skateboarding, the worst offender is the imbecile that wrote this text on the back. The annual skate tour has come to Springfield. Bart, Homer, Otto and other Simpsons characters have their eyes on the $$ mega bucks $$ prize of $99. What's with the spamming of $? Is that some kind of obscure reference to the show? I guess the pitiful amount to the prize here is supposed to be funny, but either way this whole bit is a fucking disgrace and the perpetrator of this shit should be ashamed. Or shot. Just as a preface to this review, this game was honestly so painful to play that it was one of the main reasons this video was delayed so heavily. I really struggled to bring myself to capture more than a couple of sessions of gameplay because of just how awful it was to play, and the game was so boring and unmemorable that I also really struggled to write anything significant about it without devolving into my usual ranting of curse words. Well, here goes. The game boots up, and instead of any story or opening cinematic, we get one of these trippy music video / skateboarding montages that emulate those that the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games would begin with, which is always like a genre in itself, but it's a way to hype up the player with a demonstration of skateboard culture, tricks, and introduce the pro skaters featured in the game. I feel like maybe the game would... I'm sorry? What the fuck? What is this shit? This combination of terrible character models, intense acid trip lens effects, and nails on a chalkboard soundtrack make this one of the worst intros to a video game I've ever seen. Is this quote-unquote cover of the Simpsons theme supposed to be cool or gangster? I ask you. Like, no, really, I ask you, I don't know, have a listen. Ah, there it is. Ear cancer. Innit, fam? I feel like the game would have benefited from a bit of story, other than that preposterous slither of context from dead person. You can't hurt anyone anymore. Maybe an opening cinematic that explained why in the fuck Marge is leaping through the air off of half pipes and shit. Hell, why not just come up with some reason as to why this Mega Bucks prize of $99 is so alluring in the first place? I don't know. Maybe they could have done a scenario that references the show, you know? Something self-referential to add a bit of meta-humor and make the game stand out? Well, apparently not, and instead it just seems to crawl slowly up the arsehole of Neversoft's original design. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater didn't need a story. They're skaters. But yeah, in the long and short of it, if you look for answers plot-wise, you're out of luck. But a lack of story is not all this turd has in common with Pro Skater, but there are also a lot of weird differences. I thought the gameplay was going to be like Pro Skater, but I was wrong. It's the exact same, but worse. The way the game works in terms of objectives and things to do is almost identical to Pro Skater, with the main levels of the Skate the Tour mode acting exactly like the classic levels from the original Tony Hawk's games. Controls are also pretty much the same, which, to its credit, was probably for the best, but why in the hell they couldn't have done something unique is beyond me. The worst part is they can't even seem to get copying and pasting right, as all of the snappy responsivity of the original controls are just gone, leaving the experience of controlling your guy like wading through cheese. It's like some sort of uncanny doppelganger that just doesn't look or feel quite right. It's like the video game equivalent of that mutant alien hybrid thing from Alien 4. You know the scene where it's like, kill me, and then Ripley melts the fucking thing with the fucking flamethrower. Except in this case, this failed experiment was just discarded to the depths of the game shop bargain bin. On top of all this uninspired bullshit, there's also so many other things that the game gets wrong on a fundamental level. Really simple things that you feel like even your 90-year-old grandmother could have programmed better, and she could barely see anything. And she also eats tripe, like the character selection screen, for example. Before you even get going, this screen makes you think, these developers were probably just as high as Osso. For a start, the characters are queued up in the dark, like some kind of demented police lineup. Yes, that's the one, officer. Number 1. He's the one that touched me. Secondly, to check any of the character-specific stats, you have to select a character, meaning that if you want to compare stats of the characters and make a well-informed decision as to how you want your gaming experience to be, you have to keep selecting and deselecting characters, resulting in some piss-poor animation each time. Finally, and I find this to be the most brain-dead thing about it, is that you can clearly see the character stats in the background when you have a character selected, right above where the character would be on the character selection screen, which appears to be just above and out of sight. My only guess is that the developers couldn't get this initial stat screen to work properly, so just replaced it with one that would work and then just hiding the old asset out of view. I know this isn't the worst thing in the world, and quite frankly my wife looked at me like I was fucking insane when I brought this up, but come on now, if they failed to develop a simple, convenient stat screen that actually, appeared in a convenient place, they probably should have just given up there and then. Fucking idiocy! But anyway, like I was saying, there's similar conventional game modes just highlight this game's complete lack of imagination. Within the aforementioned Skate the Tour single player mode, there are 3 options. There's Skills School, good grief, Skatefest, and Timed Trick Contest. The Skills School, god fuck this game, is unfortunately exactly as it sounds and acts as a tutorial/practice mode with predetermined goals, which you can complete for a bit of in-game money. The worst part about this mode is that the challenges are usually really straightforward and you have to wait on a loading screen between each one. Fucking blows. The Skatefest mode is Tony Hawk's mode that plays out like I described earlier, with sandbox-like levels with objectives like finding and collecting shit. And the Timed Trick Contest mode is, well, a timed trick contest. I didn't spend much time at all on this mode because it's stupid and boring. I'm literally a corpse. Christ, even the graphics look like they've just taken character models from Pro Skater and dressed them up in fucking Simpsons costumes. This is like the Simpsons skin DLC that nobody asked for and decided to piss out as its own fucking game.
You don't have a future.
They look like soulless mascots. Their dead, expressionless faces are just plain unsettling. Some of the models look like they're falling apart at the seams. Homer's head in particular looks like it's about to disconnect from his body at the neck. This was a haunting distraction for me, which is a shame because the environments aren't the worst thing ever, and the developers do seem to have recreated parts of Springfield quite nicely, taking creative license where necessary to make the landmarks more skatable. There are a few NPCs around that serve practically no purpose other than for your objectives, but at least they're there. Makes the levels feel a bit more alive, I suppose. Well, more alive than a corpse. They often throw out lines and references to the show, but there are still not nearly enough of them. There are a few cars and other disruptive obstacles around Springfield, but feel, at the end of the day, just as bland and characterless as the rest of the game. Speaking of characters, you can play as quite a few, including most of the Simpsons family, although why I can't play as Maggie I have no idea. Would have at least been a bit different and interesting, seeing a baby skateboard. There's also Krusty, Otto, Nelson and others, but you can fuck off if you think I'm going to be sticking around long enough to unlock that shit. Each character has a unique set of stats, and for the most part the stats are reflective of the character archetypes, surprisingly. For example, Homer is a fat fuck, so he can't jump as high. Basic stuff, but at least they thought about it. With the only exception being Bart Simpson, who's really the only character in the show that skateboards, yet he has the worst stats in the game. I just find this to be a really strange decision on the developers' part. I guess they wanted to make him a jack-of-all-trades type character, like the standard default character. But then why couldn't he be rated 3 on all of his stats instead of 2? Something to make him stand out as a slightly better character. Just don't make sense. The game does lack a character creator, which was one of my favourite features of Pro Skater 3 and other games in the series. I guess creating your own Simpsons character would have been a bit of a pretty big ask for this mindless cash grab of a game. Right, well I've already spent far too much time moaning about this game, much longer than I initially intended. This video was supposed to be 20 minutes long, so let's look at some more shitty gameplay examples and call this quits. Yay. The controls, as I mentioned already, are almost identical to Tony Hawk's controls, just sluggish as all hell. The usual conventions apply though. You can press X to ollie, triangle to grind the edge of practically anything, perform airtime tricks with square and circle, and manual by flicking the control stick up and down. One thing I did notice where this game differs is more to do with its physics. For example, the developers at Neversoft knew their game's physics weren't realistic, yet understood that the player fun and experience was more important than realism. You can simply hold the jump button to prepare a jump and gain speed. Not unlike actual skateboarding, granted, but this mechanic was barely affected by going uphill, for example. meaning that you could just gain a lot of speed and do crazy tricks all the time. It was awesome. In The Simpsons skateboarding, realism of its physics seemed to be taken a lot more seriously, which is incredibly ironic, considering it's a fucking cartoon. I can't tell you the amount of time I found myself stuck at the bottom of a sodden ramp. I couldn't hold X to get some speed and defy gravity. Instead, I would have to sit there and hold forward on the stick while my deformed character pushed himself slowly up the hill. Come on, Homer, you fucking fat piece of shit. This pit here, for example, is where I got stuck at the bottom of this ramp while attempting to complete a timed objective. I can't grind back up with the rail or anything, so I had to waste most of my timer waiting to climb back up. This just kills any fun you might be having with the game and drives a goddamn stake through the heart of your momentum. The same applies to how the game treats things like half pipes. I seem to never have enough speed to get much airtime. It sucks. I know I'm playing as Homer here, but Christ, what's the point of making a character that can't do anything? It bears repeating here. I know I sound like a broken record on this, but you'd think that a game based on a cartoon would take more liberty with its approach to fucking physics. Oh god, here's another example of this bullshit in action. I'm trying to collect this hidden item for one of the level objectives, but I just cannot seem to get both the right angle and enough speed to ride the rail up there. Come on, you fucker! Get the fuck up there! Oh please, with the fucking car in the way. Excuse me, trying to grind a rail here. Why is there just a mess of rails here anyway? Right, here we go. Got it this time. Oh, fucking please. Oh shit, I'm on the wrong rail. Can I just hop across the next rail over? No. Fuck! I actually hate this. I'm fucking livid. I'm not gonna lie, I'm fucking livid. You just will not grind the fucking thing. I just don't understand this game. This is just horrible. Really horrible. Can I grind the fucking... Oh my fucking god, dude. Can I just get out of the way? I think I've lost it. I think I've lost all patience now. I don't think I can take it anymore. Oh my fucking god. Why wouldn't he grind it? What the fuck? God, this is fucking impossible, dude. This is actually impossible.
Humiliation.
Alright. This is the worst game I've ever played. This is the worst game I've ever played.
Nose slide.
Yes. Oh my god, fucking finally, dude. Jesus. Overall, though, the game is at least functional, and there's a certain amount of quote-unquote strategy that's reminiscent of Pro Skater, but bugger me if it doesn't just make you want to play that instead. The game really doesn't seem to offer anything that its inspiration didn't, other than growing resentment for the Simpsons franchise. But let's face it, all it needed to do was work properly. But it's just so dull, uninspired, and poorly put together. Simpsons skateboarding? More like Simpsons straight boring. It's also painfully frustrating if that wasn't obvious enough. And the more I skate around, the more of these flat cartoony colours are whizzing past and making me feel like I want to chunder. You know what, I think we're done. When Matt Groening first created The Simpsons, he gave them that name to satirise modern life, with The Simpsons being close to simpleton, and that's what both of these games have been. Simple. Far too simple. It's like the developers of these games only recognised the franchise as a satirical show, determining that all Simpsons games needed to be was a funny parody of a pre-existing genre, forgetting that it also needed to be presented well and fun to actually play. My god, this game is ugly. Excuse me for a second. So there you go, that's The Simpsons skateboarding for PlayStation 2. And I think I might prefer wrestling to this botched, shameless cash-in job. And in fact, I feel like I owe the former an apology. Because it had a certain arcadey charm to it, both with its simplistic gameplay and blocky, colourful visuals. Simpsons skateboarding, by comparison, is just a shitty Tony Hawk's ROM hack with a fucking price tag. So there you go, 2 more terrible licensed games on the channel. Well, at least that's it. At least we're done. At least that's it. No more.
Or is it? It's not. There's still more in here. Fuck!
This game fucking sucks.